Hey guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 344th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So frankly, there's really no good excuse for why such an iconic debut took this long to pop up on the page, because I've had it in my collection since long before I even started the channel. And while I didn't want to do it in my last 90s set, because I used that opportunity to cover his underrated sophomore LP from 1999, which I'll link down below. I easily could have done it in the past. I think I just got caught up in all the other classic solo Wu-Tang Clan releases, like Chef Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links, Ghostface Killer's Supreme Clientele, GZA's Liquid Swords, Method Man's Tikal, not to mention the albums released from the group as a whole, like Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers and Wu-Tang Forever, or even a couple classics from closely affiliated acts like Gravediggaz with 6 Feet Deep or Killer Priest with Heavy Mental. Old Dirty Bastard put out Return to the 36 Chambers, his game-changing debut here, right in the midst of that first wave of solo Wu-Tang efforts, and it speaks a lot to this album's uniqueness that it's so often one of the very first hip-hop LPs that gets mentioned whenever 1995 is brought up, despite having some pretty fierce competition that year even outside of his own camp, just some of which included Me Against the World by Tupac, On Top of the World by 8 Ball and MJG, Soul Food by Goody Mob, East 1999 Eternal from Bone Thugs and Harmony, Smith & Wesson's The Shining, Coast to Coast by the Alcoholics, Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous by Big L, Dough or Die by AZ, Dog Food by the Dog Pound, and 3-6 Mafia's Mystic Styles, and that's just a very small sample. What separates this debut from every other release in that diverse group is how idiosyncratic and unique ODB's style is, and he would deliver his bars with such an explosive energy that they often sound like the hip-hop embodiment of a crazy but oddly wise crackhead who's ranting on the corner. And not only is that 100% intentional and by design, but it's actually one of the many positive attributes this album has going for it. One thing you can say for sure is Old Dirty wasn't putting on any kind of act in his music, and his antics outside of hip-hop would encapsulate that, be it the high-profile arrests, showing up to collect food stamps in a limo, his infamous stunt at the Grammys, or the life-changing event that happened the very next day where he helped save a 4-year-old from a car wreck and visited her consistently in the hospital, all under a fake name so the media wouldn't know. Clearly being misunderstood was a curse in many ways for ODB, but simultaneously it was these different qualities that made his presence so undeniable in every song he touched. And it pretty much goes without saying that you'll never mistake him for someone else on a posse cut. And even though this isn't a full Wu-Tang Clan LP, we do actually get our fair share of group tracks on Return to the 36th Chamber, many of which end up being highlights for me. Of course, the moments that really helped this album chart, and even today still remain his most well-known hit singles, are Shimmy Shimmy Ya and Brooklyn Zoo, which honestly displayed a skill for catchy hook crafting, to the point I would say he exceeds any other member of the clan in that department, and he would polish that skill even further on his second and final studio full-length. One track I've always gravitated to here that isn't a hit single or posse cut is the super low-key and underrated song Cuttin' Heads, which sees ODB and his cousin RZA trading lyrical barbs back and forth over this very simple and minimal beat, but there's something about the juxtaposition between the grimy, bare-bones piano loop and the passionate, emphatic delivery from the MCs that really makes this record a standout one. I actually think this would be a cool moment to pull some lyrics from, considering it's sort of slept on and I really love the content both legends bring to the table. And the first part of the track sees the two constantly switching back and forth. And while this isn't the section I wanted to focus on, I have to share the savage closing line for the opening verse, which is, "Who, what, I don't give a flying fuck about a chump cause his heart only pumps Kool-Aid, snatch a kid by the braids, cut his head off." But the part I really wanted to zone in on here is the second verse on Cuttin' Heads, as it has a pretty even 50-50 split of ODB and RZA, Starting with Old Dirty, who gives us some pretty vivid imagery with his set of lines, rapping, "Rhymes is rugged like burnt buildings in Harlem, the old dirty bastard from the temple of Shaolin. Dirty to the brain like drops of acid rain, plain, plain, plain with rhymes plucking at your brain. So take a sip from the cup of death, and while you're shaking my right hand, I'll stab you with the left. Red alert, a song coming straight from the dirt." Then the Resurrecta takes the mic, and he definitely holds his own here as well, and builds onto the lyrical foundation ODB had laid before him, rapping, "Once I go berserk, mad brothers got hurt, nothing new in 92, it's time to go to work. Trills, watch 'em scream once I hop on the scene, they fear the return of the fatal flying guillotine. Mr. Millie, that means I'm also militant. Don't wear no suit and tie, I'm no gentleman. Getting laid, taking heads, that's my hobby. Punch a brother in the face who calls me Robbie. I be the RZA, call me that 'cause I never liked the name I received from my papa. Dirty Deluxe, yo I'm hunting for ducks, snatching devils up by the hair, then cut his head off." As I alluded to earlier in the review, there's a number of posse cuts on Return to the 36 Chambers, which means we get a pretty sizable list of featured artists. And this roster is comprised of Method Man, Raekwon, Jizza, RZA, Buddha Monk, Ghostface Killah, Prodigal Son, Zookeeper, Murdoch, 12 O'Clock, Shorty Shitstain, 60-Second Assassin, Killah Priest, and Master Killa. As for the immaculate production, Old Dirty recruits a small handful of familiar faces, including True Master, Fourth Disciple, Ethan Ryman, Big Dory, and of course RZA, alongside this late icon himself. When it comes to my overall favorites on this one, I think I'll leave out the tracks I already brought up by name, like Cuttin' Heads, Shimmy Shimmy Ya, and Brooklyn Zoo. That way I can clear up room for other quality moments, and make my top 3 Rawhide, Damage, and Protect Ya Neck 2 The Zoo. Then for the honorable mentions, I want to give a ringing endorsement to songs like The Stomp, Snakes, Brooklyn Zoo 2, Tiger Crane, Baby Come On, and Harlem World. Thank you for watching my 344th video. Next up, we have a West Coast veteran who hasn't appeared on the page in a little while now, so check in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite tracks are off this legendary solo debut. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.